Good evening. This is the First Lady Erica, and we're here for the mozone tonight. I wanted to talk to Dr. Katrina Hutchins of I'm God's Girl for Real, and it's for a very special reason. With everything that's going on around us, how do we remain calm? How do we remain focused? And how do we remain in God's grace? And I'm just going to go ahead and let you see her, the beautiful Dr. Katrina Hutchins. I'm so happy to be able to have you here tonight, that you're like approachable and had time to squeeze me in, because I know you're really, really busy.
Listen, it is my honor. I am so excited. I'm always so honored to have invitations extended. You know, I don't take it lightly that people invite me, because they don't have to invite me. So thank you so much for inviting me into your space. I so appreciate what you're doing and how you are creating a platform for women to just hear from other women. There is great power in us being able to hear from each other, speak to each other, support each other, lift each other. And so thank you for all that you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I really like talking to people, and I like, I guess I feel if I have a thought or a concern, I'm sure someone else has the same thought or concern. Maybe not everybody, but somebody might want to hear it, and somebody may need to know it. What I notice about you, you're a Carolina girl, aren't you?
I am a Carolina girl, born and raised in South Carolina. Of course, I'm in Florida now, but a part of my heart is in South Carolina because I still have family there. So my mom is still there. My children are there. So yeah, so my grandchildren are there. So a part of my heart really is still in South Carolina, but I've been in Florida for the last 2 years.
I'm from Charleston, South Carolina, right?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
You don't have,
People call it Chucktown.
Yes, but I don't hear it in your dialect, so it's so interesting.
Girl, I can talk like that if I want to,
There it is. I have some really sweet friends in Charleston, and I do know they can turn on and off. So I love hearing it, though. I think it's so.
I can tell them girls at home. I can tell them I love it. I still hear. I know somebody might kick my butt for doing that though, but yeah. That's where I'm born and raised. My grandma's from Orangeburg, and I was raised in Charleston. My sisters went to state, and I was in the Army. I went to Fort Jackson. My two brothers went to Harris Island. So no, we're deep.
Excellent.
So that was a big journey. You have lots of education. You got your master's in social work. You even did that from South Carolina. Did you?
I did. So I did my undergrad studies at Columbia College in South Carolina, Columbia, and then the University of South Carolina for my master's degree. My doctorate is from Northeastern University in Boston. So anyway, 2 in social work, 2 degrees in social work, but then this last degree is in organizational leadership. So that's kind of where I focus my work energy, work time is in my consulting company, working with organizations, agencies, institutions, really helping them build their organizational capacity, build their teams, ultimately build their people. So this degree in organizational leadership has really served me well in the work that I do. Coaching, workshops, seminars, virtual trainings at this point.
Right.
So much of my work is happening virtually right now because of the climate we're in. But nevertheless, I love technology for that reason, because so much of what I do can happen from right where I am. So I've been really blessed in that regard. On top of that, I'm teaching in the 2 institutions that I just named. I'm actually teaching at Columbia College, leading the organizational leadership graduate program at Columbia College and teaching in that program. But I'm also teaching doctoral students now at Southeastern University in Lakeland, Florida. So both of those programs are online programs. So again, I get to do all of that from the comfort of my home office. So I'm very grateful and blessed in that regard.
Wow, that's amazing. So those are okay, that's at least three things right there. So that's teaching in two schools. And then it's like a training organizational program. And then there's your personal mission, which is the I'm God's Girl.
Yes.
Tell me about that one.
That's so near and dear to my heart. So the I'm God's Girl for Real network is actually a Facebook network. So if any of you who are listening and you're not a part of the I'm God's Girl for Real network, just scoot on over there and request to join. But the I'm God's Girl for Real network just kind of really started for me several years ago. I had been through some really challenging times in my life, just some dark places, just things that happen as a result of living on our journeys, right? And it was just really not a good time for me, but I watched God bring me through those things. And as I would speak about it, as I would talk about it, I would always interject, but I'm God's girl for real, meaning I know that I'm flawed. I know that I'm not perfect. I know that I don't cross every T. I don't dot every I. But one thing that I'm certain of is that he loves me, right? And he loves me for real. So I would always say, so I'm his girl for real. And so I just kind of kept saying that as my own personal mantra. And it started kind of picking up with some of my close friends and, you know, a few other women. So about 5 years ago, I just did like a luncheon, like about 25 friends and friends of friends. And we just kind of gathered for lunch, and it was kind of our first I'm God's Girl for Real. We had our little t-shirts and everything. And I'll never forget, it was kind of like in the back of this restaurant. We just occupied that space. Fast forward to last year, was the 4th year of the I'm God's Girl for Real conference. We filled a ballroom.
Wow.
Right? Women, over 200 women came from all over the country, literally, to Orlando, Florida for the conference. And so the network has grown kind of from those 25 women gathering in a restaurant to, you know, almost 3,500 members in the network now. And so just very grateful watching the hand of God do what he does. And in the midst of planning now for the I'm God's Girl for Real virtual conference. So that's coming on October 31st. So I'm super excited about that as well.
Well, that's great. Right on time, right for my birthday.
Is your birthday October 31st?
The 23rd, thank goodness.
23rd, okay.
Yeah.
So you have to treat yourself to a birthday gift. You have to gift yourself the conference for your birthday. That would be amazing.
Oh, yeah. So you growing up in South Carolina, you're married now to a minister.
Yes.
Did you see any of this coming? Like you were going to school in South Carolina. What was your goal at the time while you were in school? Did you see any of this? Had you planned for any of this? Like, I want to start a women's organization. I want to live this life.
You know what's really interesting about my journey, and I think just interesting about our journeys overall, is that, you know, I believe God only gives us glimpses and pieces, right? Because if he let us see everything, we would probably mess it up. Let's just be honest. And so while I did not see all of this, what I was able to do is see things in hindsight. You know how you can go through things And it could be the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you don't understand it, fully understand it while you're in the middle of it. And sometimes it's only when you can look back and you can then understand, okay, now I understand why that happened, because that was connected to this. And so to answer your question, I believe I've been able to see my life in part. So, and depending upon what season I'm in. So if I'm in this season, it's almost like I can look back and understand this season better. But it's also preparing me for the next season, because I really believe that God is always preparing us for what is to come. He's already preparing us for the next season. He is always equipping us for what is to come. And so while I could not kind of have this forecast, look this far into my future and see this, one of the things that I take great comfort in is the fact that He holds my future. So whatever that is, right? Whatever that is, I know that He's preparing me for the future He holds, because I really believe that before the foundation of the world, He had a plan and a purpose and a destiny already carved out for my life. So He even saw this moment. He saw our connection, right? Because it was for an appointed time. And so I find great peace, great surrender, just kind of great calm in the sense of knowing that God has had a plan. He has a plan, and He's walking me through that plan to my ultimate destiny. So I'm just kind of enjoying this journey. I'm just enjoying the journey as we go.
I've always seen it like we're like, each one of us is like the prodigal son. You've been taught information, well, most of us have been taught, like, you raised up in church and you know right from wrong, and then you have to go out and experience it and check the temperature, and then like, okay, I've seen enough, let's come back now.
Yes. And so and that's what I mean. It is really filled kind of with, as I said, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It would be wonderful if we could just tell these amazing stories about our journey that only involve the good pieces, right? Only involve the good parts. We would love to just be able to tell those mountaintop stories, what it was like to be on the mountaintop. But I will tell you, my greatest lessons have come during my time in the valley, not my time on the mountain, right? It was during those times of hardship, those times of failure, those times of disappointment, those times of darkness. But one of the things that I ultimately came to recognize, that the God of the mountain was also the God of the valley. And so that I could trust Him in the valley, just like I was trusting Him while I was celebrating on the mountaintop. He was the same God that I could now trust in these hard places, in these places that didn't feel good. But I had to recognize that He was working it for my good. That's what the Word of God tells us, that all things, mountaintop things, valley things, all of these things are working for our good. So
yes, work together for the good.
Kind of that trust has been kind of the keeping power for me. It's just trusting God and believing that I am really situated and centered in the palm of His hand.
So today's Dr. Hutchins, what would you tell your younger self, high school, college, to keep you going to get to where you are today? What's one thing you wish you could, one message you could send yourself?
I think release the power of they. Release the power of they. And when I say the power of they, it's that thinking of, what will they say? How will they feel? What will they do? What do they believe? Right? It would have caused me to not give my power away, because of self-imposed or imposed opinions, definitions, all of those things that we can take on if we're not careful, right? So if to my younger self, I would have wanted to have that understanding so much earlier,
I'm
because
worried
it would
about
have
that. Yeah.
preserved, right? It would have preserved me having to go back and reclaim this sense of identity that I lost along the way, right? So I would have wanted to hold on to my identity and not give it away because of what they thought, what they would do, what they, you see what I'm saying?
I
So
totally see what you're saying.
that
It's
lesson,
absolutely exhausting worrying about
oh
what
my
other
God,
people think.
absolutely.
And it's funny that you say that because I just had a conversation with a friend last night, and we were discussing, you know, people. People, you're like 40 and 50, and you're worried. Oh, I know you were mad at me, or you know, you're scared to talk to people because you think they're mad at you, or you think someone's looking at you, or you think someone's saying something about you, or you know, I have a conversation with one of my family members, and she always says this, like, oh, I'm so sorry. I know you're probably mad at me. And I'm like, she begins the phone call with that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What am I mad about?
Mm-hmm.
What am I, what are these feelings like? I don't have all these feelings and assignments. But even if I did, my God, if you're worried about how everybody around you feels about you, then it would be.
Absolutely. It is so important that we understand our God identity, our God identity, you know, understanding what God says about us, who God says we are. And when we can fully embrace that, it starts to counteract those other voices. When we can move closer to our God identity, it starts to give us the power that we need to really step out of those other kind of layers. You know, I talked about living a counterfeit life. You know, sometimes we just cover until we are unrecognizable. We are unrecognizable because we don't look anything like what God created, because we've taken on all these layers and we become so counterfeit while we're still flashing the blessed and highly favored smile.
I think that's why I don't like
We're
when people
so
say,
far from our
fake it till you make it.
no, no.
I do not like
No.
when people say that.
You know, our pursuit should be a pursuit of our created selves. You know, God intention for our being created in pursuit of our authenticity. You know, and that's a hard, sometimes hard pursuit, because life, oftentimes society works against that. You know, sometimes there are those ways of thinking and ways of being, even in society, that tries to tell us who we are. And if we buy into that hype, it's just other layers that we're putting on top of our created selves and moving us farther and farther away from our authentic selves. So no, that it's critically important that we are seeking after our God identity. That's what really matters, our God identity. You know,
Right.
and again, not buying into this hype, and even taking on labels that we wear proudly. But and it's so far away from our God identity. So we have to be very careful, as I said before, just buying into the hype. That's really, really important.
It's important too because you can't even have friends that way. Like, how do you build a friendship when you're pretending to have it together and pretending to be a person that you're really not? When you're struggling or suffering in some way, then, you know, there's really no basis for the friendship. And I feel like a lot of ladies have a hard time being friends or making friends or having relationships, or even how do you get married that way, you know, because you're trying to be the person you think this man wants you to be. So when do you get to just relax and be you?
And again, that's why the pursuit of your God identity is
Yeah.
important. It's so important because that is where our confidence is. That is where our assurance is. That is where that sense of knowing is. You know, you talked about friendships. You know, the more authentic you are, the more you're able to even attract what you are. And that would be
Right.
authentic friends. Like, I need friends in my life that are authentic. I need friends in my life who tell me the truth. I need friends in my life that I can trust. You know, I need friends in my life that know God, who are praying women, who I know will cover me, even if I'm challenged in covering myself at the moment. You know, so those things are really important. However, you can't fully do that if you don't understand who you are. You know, even before we take a flight, I love that flight attendants, when I was flying, I'm not flying now, but when I was flying often, I always loved this part because, and it always gave me pause every time the flight attendant would say, in the event of a crisis or whatever, and the oxygen mask falls, secure your own mask before attempting to secure the
Ooh,
mask of others,
right,
right?
right.
And so it is being able to have that clarity of who you are, how you're functioning, making sure you're getting the right amount of oxygen to your own brain so that you can then be what you need to be to others. You know, the Bible even says, he who has friends must first show themselves friendly. So here's
Mm.
my reality. I first have to be a friend to myself before I can be a good friend to somebody else. If I'm not a good friend to myself, then I am not going to be a good friend to my sister. I'm just not.
Right, right. It's true because I mean you have to identify your own needs. How do you identify the needs of someone else if you can't identify your own?
Right.
That's too why a lot of people can be around each other and have no clue that this person is struggling, and they're just on their own. You know, the empathy and sympathy type.
Absolutely. They can be hidden in plain sight, you know, and so sometimes just even being able to pray, to say, you know, God, give me discernment. Please give me your wisdom. Give me eyes to see. You know, sometimes we are just missing each other because we don't have the spiritual eyes to really see. I love that you just said, you know, how can you even see what's happening in someone else or with someone else, right? We can just be making them invisible. That we are praying for discernment, that we're praying for wisdom, that we are seeking to see. You know, I'm a nosy kind of girl. So I want to know, like, God, I want to know. Please let me see. You know, please give me your wisdom. Please give me your discernment because I want to be able to see. I want to have spiritual eyes to see. And so for me, that's really, really important.
Very. Somebody said, "How can you pour out from an empty cup?"
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was talking, one of my clients that I was coaching just this week, that's so powerful that someone said that because it is so true. You can't pour out what you don't have to pour. And so this is so important, especially as women. As much as we give out, we have got to have things and ways to refill, that we are being
Oh,
refilled. You
the
know,
emotional bank account.
absolutely, we've got
Yeah.
to be refilled because it is a cycle. So we fill up so that we can give out. We fill up so that we can give out. If we are not filling up, we are going to give out the same emptiness that we embody. So what we'll start giving is emptiness, right? Those
Mm.
things that don't have meaning, those things that don't have power, because we're giving out of emptiness. And I don't, I've come too far in my life to want to function in that way. It is my heart's desire that when I speak, I'm speaking life. When I'm giving, it is life giving. Whatever I'm doing, when I'm living in my assignment, I want it to be coming from a place where I have been a vessel for God to impart into, so that I can then give out to others. But then I also have to have those around me who replenish me. There are people in my life that I believe their purpose for being is to pour. Everybody can't pour into you, but it's
Right.
important to have the people in your life who can pour into you. So I love that that someone said that you can't give out of that sense of emptiness. It is so true. So it's important that we are constantly in this place of replenishing as we give. It's so important.
You basically you covered it, because it is between you, the Bible, and your prayer. Then next, having people around you that can give to you as you give to them. And then you're giving service, because you cannot constantly stay in a mode of service and pouring and service and pouring. It has to be the refill. And I think a lot of people get stuck in just giving, because
Oh
you're
my God.
supposed to do, and it's the nice thing, and they want to be nice. And then you're around, you end up maybe, I heard this before, like users love givers and givers love users. So it's that parasitic type relationship.
And I've heard it this way. Givers have to set boundaries because takers never will.
Woo!
Right? So givers have
Never
to set
will.
boundaries because takers never will. Here's the reality. Because when we're giving, and we don't have a cutoff, we don't have boundaries, we don't have a line of demarcation in that, we are teaching people that it is okay for you to keep pulling from me and keep draining me and keep sucking the life out of me. Right? My husband says it this way: never complain about what you allow. Right? So we have to have boundaries. We have to have those times where we recognize it is not wise for me to keep giving. There is power in no. 2 letters, N-O. There is great power in no. And sometimes we push past our no when everything in us is screaming, no. We're still saying, okay, yeah, I'll do that. Okay, I'll give you that. And
You
everything in us is telling us no. And
and we
so,
become bitter and resentful.
listen. And then, right, and then we get bitter, we get resentful, we get offended, right? We get angry at the people that we keep giving to because we had no cutoff. We didn't set boundaries, right? So it is so important that we recognize our role in that. I always talk about NO, meaning not obligated.
Yeah.
So even asking the question, wait, am I obligated to do that? Let me think about that for a moment. Right? What does this mean for me? Is this in alignment with what God has called me to do? Is it in alignment with my assignment? Because even in good things, right? Every good idea is not a God idea.
Whoa.
And so we really have to be consulting. Again, I go back to discernment and wisdom. We really have to be consulting the Father, even as it relates to our yes and our no. Because there are some things that we are saying yes to that ultimately just end up being distractions that's keeping us from the thing that God really wants us to be focused on and really wants us doing. But because we are so over here in our yes, we are so distracted by that we don't even recognize that we've stepped away from the path that our assignment is on.
Right. It'd be like missing work because you had to go do a bunch of favors for someone else. So you just
Exactly.
to work. Now you get fired from your job because, like you said, your assignment, you do have, you have obligations in your own life to take care of. It's amazing too, because you'll immediately know a friend, because when you say no, how does that person react?
Mhm.
How's that person treat you? So
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, and again, always being what I call an assessment, in assessment mode, assessing. We've got to assess. Sometimes we stay in friendships because we've been in them for a long time, right? And we convince ourselves, but no, she's been my friend for 3 decades, so, but we've got to recognize that there are seasons. God really operates in our lives in seasons. And sometimes we've got to recognize that some relationships have or should come to an end with that season.
yeah,
And it may be painful. I'm certainly not suggesting that you just end it, you end the relationship and you're fine. No, we are wrapped in our humanity, but there are those instances where we have to recognize when our season has ended, because everybody just cannot go with you to your next season. And so we have to be okay with making that shift. So here's what I say: when God moves, you move just like that. And then you deal with your emotions. You ask him to help you deal with the emotions that come with that, right? But it's more important that we move when God moves, because he's working it for our greater good.
right. Um, Too, I think sometimes people smile when they don't want to smile, and you don't have to necessarily force yourself to smile. Maybe sometimes you need space and time. I mean, I notice some people that do fasts on social media. Maybe you want to do fasts on phone calls, or what are some things you would recommend? Or
So
hard too. I want to say this too. I'm so sorry. Like, because
no, no.
you could be a married woman or single. So you're married. You have a person that you're tied to. You're obligated to. You have children. You can't ignore them. But where do you put this space? How do you make this space for yourself?
And so again, it kind of takes us back to what we were talking about a moment ago. And it's so interesting. I was just coaching a young lady today, and I was saying to her, I want you to focus on scheduling yourself into your calendar. Scheduling yourself just like you would a dental appointment, a doctor's appointment, a hair appointment, a nail appointment, whatever, but scheduling yourself into your calendar to do what? To do what refuels you, what replenishes you, right? For me, I will tell you, I need to have scheduled times of quiet, because as much as I do what I do, the what I get my energy from is quiet. Like nothing on in the house. No music, no devices, no TV, just sitting in the quiet. One of my favorite scriptures is Psalms 46:10. Be still and know that I'm God. Just be still. And so often, especially in the hustle and bustle of this world, sometimes we have a very hard time with stillness.
You have
We
a
feel
hard
like
time
we gotta
breathing.
be doing, we've got to be doing, we got to be doing, we got to
Yeah.
be on this fast track, we've got to be moving, no, there is that time. There is a time and season for everything. And so there is a time to just be. Sometimes we are so in this vein of doing that we miss the opportunity to just be. But being, taking that time to be, is that life-giving part. Taking the time to be is the thing that fuels our doing. If I'm not carving out that time, I am going to be no good for what I'm trying to do. So if I'm not taking time to be, I can't do well what I'm trying to do. So for me, those two work in harmony with each other. I can't just be out here doing, and I'm not taking time to be. Because again, I go back to what the comment was, then it just becomes empty doing. And I need my doing to be anointed. I need my doing to be powerful. I need my doing to be meaningful. I need my doing to make a difference in somebody else's life. I need it to matter, right? And so in order for that to happen, I've then got to spend time being and allowing God to refresh me, restore me, replenish me, letting me hear his voice, getting directives from God so that I'm not just out here on my own. You know, I just did a study in Proverbs for the entire month of August. I read a chapter a day. There are 31 Proverbs, so I read a chapter a day, and it's the book of wisdom. So sitting in those times of quiet and meditating on the word of God, and meditating on the word of God related to wisdom. And so my prayer became, God, I want to be a wise woman. You know, I don't want to be out here on my own, trying to make my own decisions, trying to carve my own way, trying to strive to become something that you never intended me to be. You know, I'm not out here trying to make a platform. I'm out here trying to live in my assignment. That's more important to me than anything. I'm not out here trying to be a celebrity. I want to make God famous. And if I'm failing at that, I'm failing.
Wow. Wow. There's some pretty awesome women on here tonight. So one of my favorite books is the Proverbs.
Yes.
A big step in life is to schedule yourself. And I like that you said put yourself on the calendar. It's funny because in finance, like we always tell people, you got to put a name on your money or it'll walk away from you. You name on your time or it'll walk away from you too. You know, it could be texting too much or maybe
Absolutely
doing too much for other people and then not finishing what your assignments are. But I think using that schedule, using that calendar for your time with God, time alone, time with the family is very important. It's very important, like you said. You got to put your foot down.
And it's life-giving, right? Yeah. Those things are life-giving. In a season where so much is happening in our world that has the potential to suck the life out of us, we've got to be intentional about doing things that are life-giving, right? And remembering, for those of us who know God, those of us who are trusting God, those of us who are depending on God, remembering that we are in this world, but we are not of this world. And that, you know, it is so critically important for us to not forget the God factor in anything we're doing and whatever we're doing, wherever we are. Remembering the God factor, that we are not just out here on our own. We are not just out here to occupy space, but there is a purpose, a plan, and a destiny in place for our lives. And so I want to wake up every day and live that thing. You know, I think the greatest tragedy is for us to have gone through, you know, this life and get to the end of it, and we never accomplished or did or lived in the assignment that was ordained for us to live in. It's tragic. That would be tragic. To me, returning to the Father full of what he gave me to give out to the world. But I never did it because I was busy doing other things. I was off doing other things. I was over here saying yes to everybody. So now I'm at the end of this thing, and I never took the time to live the life that God sent me here to live, to deposit into the earth the things that I was sent here to deposit. So I really am on a mission to die empty, meaning that I have fully emptied myself. That's the only time I really want to be emptied, is that I fully emptied myself of what I was sent here to deposit. And I believe that we were all sent here to deposit something in the earth. I think about, just even the 43 years of Chadwick Boseman's life and what he deposited in the earth in those 43 years. He lived in those years probably multiple lifetimes that some of us live, because he was so intentional about what he was
There you
depositing
go.
in the earth, right? He was intentional. And so sometimes I think we are missing opportunities because we are not intentional. So my goal is to wake up every day and be intentional, intentional with God to even order my day, to order my world for that day. Now, will distractions come and temptations come? Absolutely. To take me off the path? Absolutely. But what I want to remain intact is my intentionality.
I love it because, like you said, with the scheduling, when I don't do well with my time, I feel guilty. So I end up feeling bad about it. And
Sure.
the idea of being intentional. I read this book called Outwitting the Devil. I don't know if you ever read that book.
I haven't.
It talked about drifting versus being intentional with your time.
That's good.
Drifting will completely suffocate you and take you out of what you're supposed to be doing. But then also too, like you're saying, having a purpose and depositing. And it always makes me think about the talents in the Bible. Like if God gave you a talent, you need to be using it. And if you waste it, you don't want him to come back and say, well, I gave you this great, amazing math skills. I gave you great people skills. I gave you great, amazing, intellect. And now that I'm back, what did you do this whole time? Did you just sit on the porch and play cards, or what did you do with all that I gave you? Because by now you
Right. That's good. That's good. Because there is that element of accountability. We're going to be accountable for what we did or didn't do as it relates to those talents that you talked about. And and again, I call it our assignment. We are accountable to the assignment we have, that God-given assignment that we have. We are, and we're going to be held accountable to how we were stewards over that assignment. So absolutely, I completely agree with you.
So at this time, we're going through COVID and we're going through riots, and what I'm seeing is a rise of disrespect in the way people kind of treating each other these days. That concerned me, and I thought, we've gotten to the point where people are actually making excuses for or justifying. That's what I want to say. They're trying to justify. So, they say, you cannot justify evil for evil. And I see this justification, and I would like you to speak on that,
Sure, sure.
when you're mistreated or when you're, because we're working with a system, but still God is in control of even that system. God is in control of our actions. So I'll just let you talk.
Absolutely.
Give
That
you give
no,
me
no, no,
what
no.
you
That's so good. That is so good. Here is what I believe is that so much of what we have forgotten is what God intended us to remember, and that was simply humanity. Sometimes we forget other people's humanity. And I always talk about, before we are anything else, a title, a status, a this, a that, we are first human. That is the great equalizer. We are first human. What do humans need from God? More than anything else, what do we need more than anything else? We need his grace. And so we want sometimes to be receivers of that grace, but we don't want to be extenders of that grace, right? And so when we are withholding of grace, that's when other things enter in. You know, some of this divisiveness we see, some of the isms that manifest. That's all because we've forgotten humanity, right? So when we forget, then we make space for isms. All of every ism you can name is because we forgot, first of all, we're all human, first and foremost. But when we forget, we make space for evil. We make space for ugly. We make space for nasty. We make space for all of the things that we see manifesting. And so when you ask kind of what do I say to that, first of all, starting with myself, I've got to be able to do some mirror talk, because am I immune to the feeling of racism and injustice? Absolutely not. I'm a Black woman in America. I'm not immune to what that feels like. I am a Black woman in America who has a Black son. I feel like I've been kicked in the chest every time one is taken away from us because of injustice, right?
Right.
So I feel the impact of that. I feel the impact of that. However, I have to, in the midst of feeling all of what I feel, my ultimate responsibility is to still keep my heart right, because that's what God commands, right? That's the command of God, to love your neighbor. Okay, well, who is my neighbor? I don't get to pick and choose my neighbor.
I was going to say, you don't get to pick.
If I look around my neighborhood, I didn't choose any neighbor in my neighborhood, right? And so the challenge is real. That struggle is real, but it doesn't erase the fact that that is still the expectation. So in order for me to function the way that I need to function, I've got to guard my heart, and I've got to keep my heart right so that it doesn't become so clouded and so consumed with the divisiveness, with the ugliness, with the hatred, with the, all of those things.
And the fear.
And the fear to the point that it makes my soul sick. Again, I'm here on assignment. I can't serve other people with a sick soul. So I've got to do my due diligence to keep my spirit right. So, I minimize how much news I watch. I minimize how much of that I'm allowing into my spirit. I minimize how much social media I'm taking in. Why? Because I need to keep my spirit where it needs to be. And I don't need it to be all consumed by those things, because they ultimately turn into toxins if I'm not careful. I'll be bitter and, jumping on all of these bandwagons of divisiveness and all of that if I'm not careful. So I first got to do this heart thing, keep my heart right, be in this place of self-examination, be introspective, be reflective, because I have an obligation to do that. I can't control what other people do. If I could, I would make everybody into the model I think they need to be, right? God didn't give me that authority. So, but what he did give me was control of me. And so that has to be my primary, I think sometimes he looks at me and said, you got one job. And that's you. That's you, right?
If you're concerned about masks, you wear your mask. If you're concerned about driving, make sure you drive right. Make sure you do what you're supposed to do.
Make sure you're treating others right. Make sure you're doing the right. Make sure you're inclusive. Make sure you're equitable. Make sure you understand what I'm saying.
It
Do
goes
your
back to the
part.
very first statement that you said. If people aren't welcoming, am I being welcoming? Did I greet a person with a smile, or did I just expect them to smile? Did I expect them to be doing the right thing when I'm already like, I'm waiting for her to do something racist, or I'm waiting
Exactly.
for
I've
her.
heard people say things like, she didn't even speak to me.
Did
And
you?
my question is, did you speak to her? No. Okay, okay.
I think people forget that other people, this is a spiritual battle, and
Mhm.
helpless and harassed. So when you're walking around, these people are what they helpless and harassed. But I'll let you speak on that if you want to. But understand people are afraid, like you're afraid. And I know too, if you watch a lot of news, or you do get into social media a lot, when you go outside, you really don't know how to respond to people because you've watched all this, and you kind of go outside assuming. I know somebody was cutting my grass, and I was just like, is he gonna be, is he one of those people,
And so that's why we have to be mindful of what we consume, because it changes the very nature of how we are, our character, right?
perception and reality.
And all of those things. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding.
Understanding.
Just acknowledge me in all of your ways, and I'm going to direct your path. And so sometimes, again, when we are not trusting the God that we say we believe in, the God we say we love, the God that we call Father, or whatever we call God, trusting that He's got us, right? And having this sense of surrender in that trust. So surrendering in that trust to God. I wish I could solve the mysteries of the world and solve the questions regarding the level of injustice and hatred and divisiveness, and the answer to this pandemic, and just the tragedies and all of those things that we're facing. But I only know for me, I only know to look to the God I trust in those things, because I just don't have those answers. And so I feel like I've got to trust the one that I believe holds the answers.
True. And God is bigger than Democrats and Republicans.
Oh my God.
I think people kind of forgot that. Like, you can really,
And the other thing
the
is
level
that
of intensity is amazing.
and God is not
Forgotten.
surprised. God is not surprised by anything that's happening. I promise you, nothing is happening, and God is saying, "Oh, myself."
Oh, myself.
Oh, myself. I didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah, this is not new.
Mm-mm. Not at all. Not at all. And the scripture talks about these days coming, right? That these days were going to come, that we were going to face these times. And so it's nothing new. It's not new.
I do feel people are surprised at the level of wickedness, and when it comes to like the child endangerment and things like that. And I was like, do you not know people literally worship the devil? People literally are rejoicing in Satan. They're rejoicing in evil. And I feel like a lot of people have to you really got to get this to your head.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We
Evil
are.
is
And
real.
that's why I said, for those of us who are believers, we've got to recognize we're in this world, this really wicked and evil world. We're in this world, but we're not of this world. So we can't afford to forget the kingdom that we are a part of. We are a part of God's kingdom, separate kingdom from this world system. Do we have to operate in this world system? Absolutely, because that's where we find ourselves. But spiritually, we've got to remember that we are a part of another kingdom. And we have to keep that kingdom mindedness in the forefront of our being, our movement, and how we are and who we are and how we journey as we go while we're here on earth. We've got to be mindful of that.
I think too, and people will have to remember that this kingdom isn't going to be divided. Because you're black, you're not getting into the kingdom, and because you're white, you're not getting into the kingdom. It is not this kind of plan. It's
Absolutely.
evil, and it's not because you're classified. Whatever these titles or classifications you have, it has nothing to do with any of that.
Absolutely. Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
So you said a lot. What are some of the, okay, so I guess you already told us, maybe you could highlight some things that you hold on to. Maybe when you get in a jam throughout the day, something that you hold on to bring you back.
I actually posted this morning in the I'm God's Girl for Real network. Those times where you can just, it doesn't require long, elaborate prayers, right? The Bible also tells us that we can pray without ceasing. It doesn't require these long, elaborate prayers. So to answer your question, sometimes when I'm in challenging times, or when I'm, when I've hit a wall, or I'm in a low place, my prayer could just be, God, please help me. Amen.
Right.
Right? That's all I got in the moment, or, I need your strength. Amen. Right? Sometimes it's just, Father, please. Amen. So again, it is just kind of turning my face to where I believe my help comes from, right? I know that this is dark. I know that this is hard. I know that this is challenged. I know that this doesn't feel good, because I will never discount our emotions. We are emotional beings. But even in the midst of those emotions, being able to still turn to the Father to say, I need your help to help me make it through this battle, through this struggle, through this darkness, through this challenge, through this issue, through this situation. I can't fathom navigating life without that ability to turn my face to the Father to ask for help.
That's not something that happens overnight. That takes time. You have to learn to.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's no magic wand. I wish, at the end of this, you can say, okay, in the wrap up, just wave your magic wand and say ABC 1, 2, 3, and it's all better.
Right. Because we forget.
No,
Oh, wait a minute. I'm trying to do this all by myself. I can't do this by myself.
it is a process. It's a process. And it's a sense of getting knocked down, but getting back up, getting knocked down, but getting back. When I was a little girl, I had one of those, mine was a clown, but it was one of those punching things that you could punch it and it would just bounce back up, and you could punch it again and it would bounce back up, right? Remember that? You could punch it and it would bounce back up. And so having that level of resilience is what that is recognizing, yeah, I got knocked down, but my life is not over. And I might be down here for a moment because it doesn't feel good. And I literally got the wind knocked out of me. However, it's not enough to keep me down here.
Right.
So having that desire, that willingness, that want to get back up and keep going. Do you fall off wagons? Absolutely. You could fall off the wagon, but get on the next one that's coming by, right? Don't just stay down there and say, I've fallen and I can't get up. No, we all fall, but we've got to have that desire, that righteous zeal on the inside of us that makes us want to get up again. Because if your life is not over, then pull yourself together so you can get up again.
I think too, a lot of people mistake humility and meekness with poverty. And I'm thinking, God still wants you to live a good life. He blessed people to be kings in the Bible. So why would he want you to be poor or to be, constantly in a state of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you care to talk about?
Well, I think about when Jesus talked about why he came. One of the things that he said is, I came that you might have life and that you might have it more abundant. So then what is abundant life? Abundant is abundant. That means a lot. A lot of what? A lot of whatever he wants you to have. And we do sometimes associate it with Christianity. We associate a poverty mentality to Christianity. Why is that when the God of gods is the King of kings and his resources are limitless? So why would we believe that we've got to live in this place of just smallness when
I
we
say
have
this
such
too.
a big God?
There was a meme going around that said God, Jesus was poor and he was homeless, and I was like, no, he wasn't. He
First of
had
all,
no place to go.
he was
Don't take
not,
that.
and he was not homeless. That I don't know where that came from, but yeah, but that's not a reality. And so I believe that because of that thinking, sometimes we live so far beneath what God has
Potential.
planned, our potential, planned and destined for our lives. We never fully realize the magnitude of that because we have bought into something that was never intended for us to buy into.
That's amazing. Yeah, I knew I was right. I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. He wasn't homeless. Go back. He could always go back to his family. He's a carpenter. He could build. He could have any amount of fish he wanted. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
He could accumulate. I think he like traveled and didn't accumulate. But but I saw a huge lesson in that. He traveled and didn't accumulate. So that means it didn't really matter, even if you were stripped of your rights or you were stripped of your wealth, that you could always continue to go and grow and build. If he is sat in one place, he would build. Even if he started.
And the thing that I love most about the ministry of Jesus is that it was so centered in the Father. He even said, I only do what I hear from the Father. And if we could really grasp that and really make that a part of how we operate, that I only do what I hear from the Father. That's my goal. That's my desire. Do I always get it right? No, because I hear other voices sometimes.
Yeah.
Let's just tell the truth. We all do. But
Yeah,
my
we did.
goal is, my heart's desire is to do what I hear from the Father. That is what I want to do because I ultimately want to bring him glory. We talk about purpose and we talk about, I want to know my purpose. What is my purpose? What am I here for? Okay, so let me make it simple. It's very clear. We all have the same purpose. We all do. And that is simply to glorify God, to bring God glory. That's our singular purpose. How do we do that? By living the assignment that he gave us to live individually. So we have individual assignments, but we all have the same purpose. How do we bring God glory? Through living our assignment. So that is our purpose, to bring God glory. So it's not to, can I go build this for God? Can I go do this for God? Well, first of all, did he need you to do that? No, he wants you to glorify him, to bring him glory by living in your God assignment, by living out the thing that he created you to live out. And so, that is my heart's desire, to live in my assignment so that my life brings glory to God.
And I think what really shows his power is here we are with our weaknesses doing great things. He works even with our weaknesses. So it's, that
And because he says that
magnifies his glory.
in your
So I
weakness,
don't
I'm strong. You know,
right. So I don't have to pretend to not be weak. I don't have to pretend to be all together and
I
perfect.
tell women all the time, girl, put that cape down. You need to burn your cape.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's a myth.
Yeah.
You know, that's a myth. That only happens in the movies. You know, we shouldn't be running around like we have our own capes and swooping in to save the day for everybody and everything. And mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm.
So that was it for me. I wanted to reiterate how people can find you on Facebook to find the God's
Sure.
Conference is October 31st. And then you have some books as well. You didn't
I do. Um, so you can find me on in the I'm God's Girl for Real network. So if you're on Facebook, as you all are at the moment, you can go to the I'm God's Girl for Real network. Just find it, send a request to join, and be happy to connect with you there. You can visit the website at imgodsgirlforreal.com. You'll learn more about the virtual conference that's coming. It's going to be really, really exciting. So more details coming soon. Registration opens on September 15th. So that's coming very soon. The conference is actually on October 31st. And so those details will be coming soon. My books are all on Amazon. You can go to my author page, Katrina Hutchins, Dr. Katrina Hutchins. But you'll see all of the books there. It's 6 of them. So you'll see all 6 of the books there on Amazon. I do a weekly radio show that airs, that comes on live every Wednesday. It's called Talk Radio with Dr. K. You can see that link or the podcast and the link on the I'm God's Girl for Real website. So several ways to connect to me, to what we're doing. And I'd love to have all of you connected. That would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing.
All right. Well, that is Dr. Katrina Hutchins. Please connect with her. And it was just great, great women on here tonight. It was great talking to you all. I'm the First Lady. You know it already. The First Lady Erica. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And guess what? One day, really soon, I'm going to edit these videos and put them on YouTube. And then as Dr. Katrina advised me to start a group called the Mozone, so that you can find all the videos all at once, so you can watch them at any time. And so I'm working on that. I'm working on a couple of projects, and we're going to take a week break, and we'll be back. We'll be back on the 17th to talk about enrolled agents. I don't know if anybody's heard of that, but enrolled agents that help you when you're in trouble with the IRS. You need somebody to, help you through an audit, or just to help get your business lined up so that you can avoid an audit. They can represent you in all 50 states. But we'll have Kenya Harris, enrolled agent out in DC, talking to us. And I just want to encourage you all to just remain in prayer and remain in meditation. I know for me, I have a hard time breathing, so I have to remind myself to take a deep breath, because you take all these shallow breaths and you kind of let life move you, and you need to be moving with God in grace and not trying to move all on your own. And sometimes you need a reminder. And I just thought this would be the perfect person to talk to with the perfect message at the perfect time.
Thank you so much. This has been such a joy being with you. My honor to share with you. And again, I so appreciate that you're doing this and that you're creating space.
I'm having fun.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for all you're doing. It matters. It matters. This
Yeah.
is the light. It's things like this that serve as light in the world when many people are facing dark times, challenges, and all of that. These are the things that really make a difference, that provide light to people and life to people. So thank you for all you're doing.
And we need as much of it as we can.
Yes, we do. Yes,
Jesus.
we do. Yes, we do. We absolutely do.